All right,
Did you mute your computer speakers?
got it. All right. Okay, so we're recording. What's Sam say? It's just you in here. Don't worry, we'll get our note takers on the YouTube. Um, all right. So I just wanted to start out by telling anybody that's going to listen on YouTube, or I'll probably clip a reel that Matt and I are officially with NutriBio as of today. So exciting stuff. So our clients, they'll have codes of ours to start getting the products. Matt and I will be putting them in plans and whatnot. So some exciting stuff
Boy.
to dust my hat off from 2 years ago. All right, so let me share my screen here with you. We'll start with the female split. Okay, cool. All right, can you see Word?
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, so first day we have here is quads and glutes. So for all listening, this is a female split. All right, so what would you typically start a day like this out with? Where, so obviously glutes are going to be the secondary here. So are we starting with glutes? We're going to start with quads. What are we doing?
So again, this is just general because it would vary person per person,
Yep,
100%, especially for a woman, and depending on
absolutely.
what class they're doing. So this gotta kind of caveat that every time. Um, but when I look at the split, we got legs twice a week. I would probably start with like an adductor,
Yep.
work my way into quads, and then finish off like fully with glute isolation.
Something like this, I'd probably put like a warm up set. Um, Probably like tell them to do like 15 reps or so. Now, would you go into how many working sets here? Two?
For this one, yeah, it would be two top sets for sure.
And what would you say your
Because
reps here?
10, yeah, this is one where I feel like it's not like you hit your adductors, you don't isolate your adductors with any other movement.
Yep.
And a woman isn't going to be able to, I mean, generally speaking, most female competitors probably are going to take quite a bit of time to rack an adductor machine versus like men, almost every single one is light. So like we'll be adding weight to the stack, doing sets of 15. So like for men, usually I'll do three sets because
Yep.
it's really hard to push progressive overload to a certain point on it. With a
Absolutely. Yeah.
woman, like I think there's value in pushing the progressive overload on two top set approach.
I 100% agree. Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. So after this, now, what would you go into next?
So this is probably where I'd move into quad movement. It would probably be like extension.
All right. Now, you doing these unilateral both at the same time?
Doesn't matter. I'll
No.
probably just for the sake of time do bilateral.
Yeah. I'm gonna put that here because I actually I don't know if you do, but I get asked that a lot. Like, hey, do you want me doing these single leg or double?
Yeah,
Um,
sometimes.
yeah, because I feel
Sometimes.
like a lot of gyms now have like a sole single leg extension machine. You know what I mean?
Do you only do one at a time?
Yeah,
You
like
can't
where
do two at a time?
where both it's like both is separate, and then they have a normal leg extension.
Yeah.
So,
Like the
all right,
hammer strength thing.
yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah. So sets and reps here. What are we looking at?
Probably like three sets of 12 to 15.
Yeah,
This isn't a movement where I suggest progressive overload too much on.
yeah, no, I agree.
Honestly, like save your knees and tendons for your squat patterns.
Yeah, take it from me. Save your quad tendons.
Yeah.
All right. Now after this, so some ways we could go with this, right? You could go into a pressing, you could go into a squat. What would you typically put here?
So my mind goes to I want to kind of like I hit my one quad isolation movement. Now I want to hit my quad like compound movement that's going to really stimulate the growth.
Yep.
But I also want to start getting primed for glutes. So I would probably put in like a hack squat or a pendulum squat or a Smith squat here for quads. just the same thing, a two top set approach here, but then I would go into something that's kind of like a hybrid of the two after this. And that's probably where I would do a leg press. And it might be like a high and wide leg press. It might be a normal stance leg press with like a band around your knees so you get more glute stimulation. Probably that, just because you're still going to get a shit ton of quad and you're going to
Yep.
get more, it's going to be like shorter range of motion, but you're going to get a lot of glute stimulation with that band.
Yeah. It's a good idea. All right. So for our squat movement here, so I put hack, pendulum, or Smith. Sets, reps here. We were looking at probably two top sets
Two top sets, yeah.
and reps. So I know, some people will put a little lower. Some might have do a top set of like say 10 to 12 and then go up a little, maybe hit 8, right? Get a little heavier. What would you typically put here?
Let's say 10 to 12.
10 to 12. Yeah.
The way I the way I typically approach my top sets is I'll have my one all out set. And
Yep.
then my next set, I'm not trying to really match it because I pretty much just blew my load. I'm usually dropping it like 20%, doing a back offset.
Yep. Awesome. So we'll leave just for the sake of just this, training split. We'll just leave the back offset out. All right. Now after this, right, you said a leg press. So we'll put leg press here. Now,
For simplicity's sake, I probably say like a high and wide stance because yeah, you're still gonna get quad, you're gonna get a little bit less knee flexion, but you're gonna get a ton of glute.
absolutely. Um, now I could put here like an extra bonus, and we could put like a note here, like if you have a band, put it around your knees, like you said, because that was a
Yeah.
really good note.
Yeah. I mean, they're gonna have to change their foot placement if that's the case because they're gonna have to go more narrow, and the range of motion is gonna be tighter. Because, like,
Tighter, yeah.
like obviously, like your knees can go out when you're
Right,
you're you're not being constricted by a band, but you're gonna keep a pretty straight knee
straight,
path
right.
with the band, and it might look funny, but I think for the purpose of what you're trying to get out of the movement, it's
It
still
works.
like something you could try.
Right.
If you like it, you do. If you don't, you don't.
Yep. All right, cool. So, all right, I'll just leave this for how we have it then, and then sets and reps for this. What are we looking?
We'll probably program it a little bit higher on this one,
Yep.
just for like systemic fatigue.
Yeah, I
You know, you,
agree.
you should be if you're really doing the two top sets and the hex squat pendulum, you should be
You're
fucking dead.
smoked. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%. Yeah. So what do you think here? Like two sets of 15?
probably, yeah.
All right. Now, after this, um, what are we looking at?
You probably do like some type of cable kickback or something like that.
Now with this, what you think of like three sets of like 15 on each leg? All right. Anything else?
If you want, you can finish off with either like a lunge or something because it's gonna hit everything.
I'll put
Or
bonus.
if you wanna like really kill somebody, do like a Bulgarian.
I'll
It's
put
gonna kill
bonus
both.
here. Yeah, yeah. Split squats are like that one movement where like I feel they're so beneficial, but they are so fucking taxing.
I don't get a lot out of them, honestly.
Really?
I
Yeah,
don't know why. I just
I
never have.
I feel my quads a ton, but I'll tell you what, like I would almost rather like just squat, like do an extra set of hack squats to failure than split squats. They fucking just kill me. I don't know why. They're so fucking tough.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something about like single leg movements and legs I don't really enjoy. Um, unless it's a single leg press, I don't really like anything single leg. Even if
Yeah,
it's single leg curl and extension, I just like doing double.
yeah. All right, so I'm just with dumbbell lunges here. We'll do what? How many reps do you usually say? 12 to 15?
I usually say 20 total steps, so like 10 each leg.
Okay. All right. Well, 2 times 10 reps each leg. All right. Cool. Let me save this. That is the first day. Next 2 weeks, we'll do back and biceps. Cool. All right. So we will go into now our questions. Sweet. All right. So you got a couple questions we want to touch on first here. So what do you got first?
Was it EQ? Is it worth running? Is it ever worth running even though, there's potential complications with kidney and cardiovascular health.
So I'll say, right, like for EQ, the first thing that comes to my mind personally is anxiety.
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I think of like, if somebody was asking me, Steve, okay, have you taken EQ? Okay, the answer is yes. I've taken it a few times, but early on in my PED usage, you know what I mean? And after like the third, I think, or fourth time I used it, I had to stop because my anxiety got so bad. It was making my mental health like severely, severely depressed. And it was like the third or fourth week of using it. So obviously, being such a slow acting drug, as soon as it started to like click and stabilize in my bloodstream and what, it was bad. So I had to stop it. And what sucked is it took like 2 to 3 weeks to feel like myself again. Right. So that's the first thing I think of anxiety. Now, for the kidney and the cardiovascular sides of it, I would say, obviously there's things to mitigate that, right? Health subs, maybe not getting heavier in terms of body fat, right? Right. Making sure like your diet's in check. Like I said, big thing obviously being, make sure there's proper health supplementation in there. Make sure you're donating blood every couple months, right? If you're that concerned, stay on like a consistent schedule with the donating of the blood, right? I think it's what every 58 days or so. So every 2 to 3 months, make sure you're getting that done. Um, but I don't I mean there's side effects to all these drugs, right? That could be potential in the kidney and such like that. So I mean, trend's big on the cardiovascular system. So, so research or so people say too. So like I would say just make sure, regardless if it's EQ or the next drug, make sure like you're on top of prioritizing health while taking the drug.
Yeah. Yeah. I look at it like, to answer the question, is it ever worth it? Like, am I ever going to program it as a coach? No. However, if an athlete comes to me and they want to try it, I'm willing to try it. But my strategy is going to be probably take the lowest effective dose and cut it in half and see what it does for you and then taper up.
Absolutely.
Because one of the benefits, I've never experienced this, and I've run EQ a handful of times, is increase in appetite. I mean, if I could get somebody on 150 mgs of EQ a week and it's increasing their appetite, like I'm sure as hell gonna have them run it. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I haven't used it in so long, and I think there are so many other better compounds that are less health complications or less potential side effects.
100% agree.
That's why I don't see the point in running, right? Because
Yep.
when you look at it from like an actual anabolic androgenic perspective, it's nowhere near one of the best in the book.
No,
Um, you know, it aromatizes, right? Um, it causes your red blood cell count to go up, right? And that in and of itself in bodybuilding is a problem with or without EQ.
yep.
Um, so I look at all these factors and it's like, I got a laundry list of other drugs that are better than this.
Absolutely. No,
So
100%.
yeah, to answer the question, like, no, I'm never going to program it. Am I willing to experiment with it if somebody wanted to? 100%. And the answer to that question for most drugs is going to be yes. Because well, number one, I'm very liberal with PEDs because I've seen enough blood work on high dosages to know that the shit is not nearly as dangerous as you think it is, unless you're like a complete fucking moron. Um, but my strategy every single time, if it's something that, we haven't run or don't typically run or just want to experiment with, it's always going to, of course, be a lot of upfront research and speaking to others who've done it. But it's also going to be starting at like below the lowest effective dose and see how you feel and go up
Uh,
from there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like, same thing, dude. If somebody asks you, like, hey, can I try EQ? It's like, okay, yeah, sure thing. Like, first, let's make sure we dump blood before we even start it. And like you said, let's at least start the dose in half of what, we would think the most effective dose would be. So like, what's like a typical EQ dose nowadays? 600. I'd probably start somebody at two to 300 and say, let's give it the first 4 weeks. Oh, you feel good? Okay. Now I'd probably be more inclined to be like, okay, I'm going to give you another 2 weeks on top of this to just make sure that something's not late kicking in, or like the mood you're feeling and you're feeling okay stays that way. And then after like that 5, 6 week mark, it's like, okay, you're still feeling good. All right, maybe now let's go up to 450. Okay, wow. Okay, now you're starting to feel some of those side effects. Maybe in that case too, I have somebody go on Merrick and get their red blood cells, taken, provided they were good, prior to that, the starting it. And now it's like, okay, now we're seeing them creep up within a 6, 7 week, 8 week time period. Maybe we got to like back off the dose a little bit and run this for maybe that 10 to 12 week, and then we're off. You know what I mean? So, but like you, dude, we're not programming it in unless, like you said, we're asked. I'd way rather be able to put somebody on Masteron and at a much higher dose where you're probably not going to feel jack shit, but get all the benefit. Um,
One thing I'll say is if you're gonna run it, just make sure you got a pretty high dose of nattokinase in your
yeah,
program. It's
absolutely.
gonna mitigate from blood blood clots from forming, and it's
Yeah,
gonna help
it's
keep
going to
that
help the flow.
hematocrit lower.
Yep.
Yeah, it's gonna overall their flow. So I'd say like 4,000 FUs is what they
Yes.
quantify it under, measure it under. So yeah,
Yep.
that's
And
what I have
and
to say
and
about that.
just while you brought up like the whole health sub thing, man, like a lot of people slack on them, right? We've both seen it, and they're not expensive, honestly, man. Like the stuff that we program in, like it can add up. If like say something's off on blood work and we need to add more stuff in, sure. But like the basis of what we should quote unquote be taking for somebody, a bodybuilder using performance enhancing drugs, it's really not that much. And I always tell people like if you can afford the drugs, you need to be able to afford the health subs that come with it. You know what I mean? Because
Dude, I
they
don't know, man. There's more and more labs coming out with like $25 bottles of tests that seem to be working for people. So maybe the drugs are cheaper than the health subs. I don't know.
yeah, you're honestly you're probably not wrong. But the health subs are just so important, right? Like make sure, like you said, if you're gonna take, EQ, native kinase, right? Make sure if your blood cells and hematocrit naturally run higher and you're a heavier guy like us, make sure you're even taking that just cruising, right? Just stay on top of it is what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, all right, cool. That was actually a good question. What was the other one you got? You got one more, you said, right?
When do you know when to refeed a client?
Okay. So I'll let you go ahead. I'll let you take it.
Yeah, so I'll talk specifically around prep, just because
Yep.
that's the
Yeah,
most
well we're
important
gonna be.
time.
Yep.
Yeah. So I guess I'll preface it with my strategy because that'll probably help answer the question. But for like 9 out of 10 clients, I will have a programmed refeed from the start of prep, specifically for the purpose of trying to mitigate metabolic downregulation, right? So again, 9 times out of 10, unless there's some exception, every one of my clients can have one programmed refeed, right? Now, when do I realize like, okay, I need to this doesn't need to be a Saturday like day refeed, it needs to be like on the fly. It's when I'm seeing one of many potential things happening or multiple of many potential things happening. And that's things like they look extremely flat, right? Okay, they look flat. That's a good time to refeed if it warrants it, right? Because getting shredded requires you to be flat, right? And I don't want somebody to be flat for a whole week, right? So the other things you listen for is like how's your performance in the gym? That's another really important piece. Oh, I might have solicitors coming to my house. Hold on, hold on. Yeah, sorry. Um, they saw my sign. I was about to
I
freak
was waiting
out.
for you to do like a swanton bomb out of the window on
No,
somebody.
no, I'm so like I'm a nice guy, but I'm very nasty to solicitors because like I have a big sign that says no soliciting in front of my house, and it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
bro, I just worked my. I've been up since fucking like 4:30 this morning. I worked my ass off all day at work. I want to be fucking sold to at my house where
No.
nobody should be bothered. Anyway, sorry. So yeah, going back to it, they're really flat. The performance in the gym is significantly declining. They're tired all day beyond like what a normal prep is.
Yep.
Or the other thing is like maybe they're just not losing weight. Like I can't tell you how many times like somebody's not losing weight and you start increasing their food and pulling back in their cardio. It's more than just a
Yeah.
refeed, but it's
Yeah.
almost like a pseudo reverse during prep. How often that will help people lose weight. So it's a number of things.
Yep.
What else do you have to add to that?
So everything you said with obviously is just nailed on the money. So like you said, right? When you see somebody from the start of prep, right, we'll have definitely one in there, right? If it's somebody bigger, probably
You're
two.
gonna have two. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And then so typically, right, we're using the same type of strategy, which is, in my opinion, the smart thing because, like you said, it's helping the metabolism all through, right? You might start depleting this individual. Say you have that on a Saturday or a Friday or toward a Sunday, even on like, or even on an off day, right? As they get leaner, you might move that. So they're absorbing all that food on an off day when the expenditure is at its lowest, aside from maybe like they have a cardio session or steps or whatever. But it's helping from the start of prep, like you said, with their metabolism, right? And it's helping that metabolic rate not like crash all the way down. Um, the next thing you said with being flat, great point you brought up. What happens as a prep goes on? Say somebody's 8 weeks out, now they're checking in with us, say twice a week, and they're sending their pictures, say on a Friday, but we need it on Saturday. We refed them that Friday, and they sent you the photos on Saturday, and you, like you said, you notice they're extremely flat. You're gonna have we refeed them a second day. Now, sometimes when somebody's getting that grainy, dry, lean, shredded look, I could definitely speak for the both of us. Sometimes we've had to refeed people the next day after, right? And you notice they wake up and they'll only be a pound or two up. Okay, like from what I've seen over all the years of now of doing this, if somebody is only up a pound after 2 high days of refeeding, you give them a third because ideally, like the chances are they're going to wake up the next day after that third high day, and they're probably only going to be up 3-4 pounds, and that's off. And their metabolism now they're starving and they're cranking even more. So these refeeds serve a specific purpose, and when implemented how me and Matt do it and the right way like this are going to literally make somebody harder and leaner and hungrier and their metabolism in a much better a state after the 1, 2, or 3, whatever it is, days. But typically we're refeeding 1 to 2 days, like you said, for majority of people, right? You rare case where like you're fucking eating 1,000 grams of carbs 2 days in a row, and then like your off day was what 400 or 500 carbs if I remember, and you're up fucking 0.6 pounds. Like that's anomaly shit. You know what I mean? But like
Yeah.
for regular, I'd say 9 out of 10 people, that's not the case. It's usually 1 or 2 days. Now I will bring up one other really good point: stress reduction, and I think that could really help. Right, dieting, and especially how we have to diet. We diet or we're dieting individuals to get lean and super flat. Cortisol is going to go up naturally because your body's response, it's a stress response, dieting and being in a deficit and trying to get low body fat like that. So these high days also help the body dump cortisol and give the body stress from a stress break from dieting, and that also greatly helps people. So I just kind of wanted to throw that in there, but
That's an
that
important piece.
yeah, that was a great question. That was a great question.
You know, I think
Um,
one other thing to add is like somebody might ask, like, okay, when do you know when to start refeeding like more than 1 day in a row? And it's like pictures and weight ultimately, because if so some clients like I understand it's a challenge just due to life, but like I'll have people send me weight every day, but like in their check-in form,
yep,
not like every morning. So I'll know, let's say like this person is typically up 4 pounds after their refeed.
yep,
Like you'd be surprised how consistent it normally is.
yeah,
For a lot of people. Some people it's not, right? Like it's just kind of anomalous. But
yep,
when I start getting that person that's up usually 4 or 5 pounds over their refeed, and it takes them 2 or 3 days to get back to normal, and that's when they're dropping.
yep,
When that increase starts to get lower and lower, or they don't gain weight, that's when you know that they need more food. In
yep,
parallel to, of course, what the pictures are showing you.
absolutely,
Typically, like they say, this scale is not the most important tool, but which it certainly isn't, but it's a really important one. Is like the stories typically align. Like the fullness will start to be less evident
yep,
as the scale creeps up less and less after a refeed.
yep,
And that's why you ask for pictures the day after a refeed, right? Um, and again, we're talking about when somebody's like really cranking. Like this isn't necessarily like 12 weeks out type.
no,
Um, it may be 12-week out territory. depending on how things are going. But it's when the athletes like you're seeing changes daily type thing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point too. Yeah, that was a good question. Awesome.
Yeah,
All
that
right.
was from Sam.
So, Sam asked that question.
Yeah.
That was a good question. All right. So, building a male PED cycle. So, the individual who asked me this said, "How would you go about?" And I don't like the word they used, but I'm gonna just put it how they did. How would you go about building the perfect male PED cycle? And I don't think there's a such thing as a perfect cycle, right? Um,
I
but
could give you a perfect cycle, but it's not going to be healthy.
yeah, well, um, so I think it's a really good open-ended question just because we already kind of touched on the EQ, right? And kind of what else we would prefer over that. Now, do we want to take this as like, hey, we're planning a cycle from 16 weeks out to the prep, or you want to just say we'll do
Let's
a
let's just talk about like
basic.
somebody's in a growth phase, like or they're reversing, like they're in a phase where they're lean, they're going into a nice push in a growth phase, they're healthy, they're a good athlete, like they're at the level where they should be pushed. That
Perfect.
take that for example.
Okay. So I got Word up right here. I'm actually going to share my screen with
Ooh.
you.
Oh shit. Are we gonna get as good as dosages too in here?
Oh, 100%.
Oh fuck yeah.
You already know. Matt's
All
getting
right.
turned on.
So this guy like is he like getting ready for a pro show? Is he getting ready for a national show? What are we doing here?
um
Or in his growth phase leading up to a national
all
show or
right.
pro
All
show?
right. So let's
Because
so
I'm
let's
asking for context.
all right. So let's say we just got done a push phase. We had to take, we dieted them down, we cut their food by 25-30%. We got 8, 9, 10 pounds off them. We tightened things up. We got their appetite back up. We dropped their glucose a bit. We got them resensitized. They're going to do Easterns at the end of the year. So we're at March right now. We got a nice 16-week. We got, we'll say we're in January. We got January, February, March, April, and April, right? We got 4 months to.
Let's call it nationals so that we're pushing a national
All
cycle
right, fuck it.
or a
So
growth
so
phase national
so
cycle.
we so all right. So we got a 16-week national level cycle for a male coming up here. They're doing classic physique, you know. And then we'll go through all that from start to finish.
Okay.
Provided their blood work was good, it checked out well, their appetite's up, and we're ready to push.
All right. We'll just say this person does not like aromatize much. Like they're a middle of the pack aromatization, middle of the pack gyno, middle of the pack, like
Right.
they're good, ready to go. So all right, so we're going. Are we doing like start of the cycle and then take titrating up?
The whole shebang.
All right, so we'll start the cycle. Um, I'm probably gonna have this guy cruising around like 250 tests. So going into that, I'm just gonna jump him right to 500 tests for a
All right, so
cycle.
so we'll go prior to cycle,
This is
cruising.
fun.
Yeah, it is. I know. Every time PEDs come up, it's like we
Mhm.
just this is all right. All right. So we're gonna
500
start.
tests.
So what would we say this is? Week 1 to what? If we broke this down.
I
Four
I
first
would
four
say
weeks.
yeah, 4 to 5 weeks.
All right, week 1 to 4. All right. So we're doing what, 250 testy, we'll say Monday and Thursday, or you want to break it down over 3 shots? What?
I mean, I don't personally program what days my clients do their shots. I just tell them split it across X amount of shots.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I'm just saying 500 megs a week
All right. So let's go
test.
500 weeks of testy per week. All right.
From there, I'll probably throw in like 400 megs of primo. From there, I'm thinking between NPP and DECA.
Yeah, I was gonna go with MPP. I was gonna say just a little shorter acting. Obviously, they're gonna have to inject it more frequent, which is something with something like that. Obviously, we'll note to a client, like make sure, of course, you're fucking not injecting this once a week,
Yeah.
or twice.
So I'd probably start about like 200 megs a week.
I was gonna say the same thing.
And are we talking that you're doing growth and everything too?
Yeah, yeah, we're
Oh
doing
yeah. So I mean, I'll just put them at like 5 units of growth.
right. And this is per
Um,
day, training days,
yeah, every day.
every day. That's what I would say. Okay. All right. Any AIs in here?
Uh, for somebody, yeah, I mean, if he's like middle of the pack, I would say hold off for the first for now
Forward. Yep.
until he starts to get some type of side effect.
Yep.
Because you know the primo is going to help to some mild extent to help
Yep.
mitigate
Yeah, that's
that.
what I was gonna say. I would wait the first 4 weeks and tell this individual, like, hey, listen, if your nipples start getting sensitive, get starting itching, lumping, anything, you got just let me know and we can, get this sorted out. But
Yeah, they're going to need to have some type of like Rolodex or Romacin and
yep,
Caber on hand going into the
yes,
cycle because they're
yep,
going to need it.
yep. All
All
right.
right.
All right. So now we're starting at week 5 now. So probably so we got the first 4 weeks out. So now we have 12 weeks left of this. So I'd probably say this is like week 5 to 12 coming up. Would you
I mean, is we only have 16 weeks, so I'll do 5 to 10. Honestly, I
five to
do
10?
pushes for 20 weeks.
Yeah, right. Okay, so
So, I mean,
we'll
I would
do
probably
week
keep this a
12.
little bit longer. Yeah.
All right, so let's do 20 weeks. That's fine.
People are going to get their hands on this and be like, these guys are crazy. It's like, no, actually, we're not.
No, I
This
would
is not going to
agree.
be that
I would
effect.
completely agree. I mean, pending the time, right? It's I would prefer 20, but you know, obviously, again, people have to keep in mind too that aren't educated on this. You're talking about a national level cycle, like, you know, there is a level of degree of pushing that goes into the levels that an individual is at. You know what I mean? And by no means is this fucking crazy, in my opinion.
Oh, no. Well, we're just getting started, right?
All right. So now we're week 5 to 10. So taking us from 20, 20% into the cycle to midpoint here.
Yeah. I mean, I would go to 750 test at this point.
Yeah. All right. Now for Primo, I would probably put this up to 600.
Mhm.
I love how as soon as like the drug talk starts, we get like more people.
People are trickling in. They're like, yeah,
All right. Now with MPP, now let me ask you this: would you keep this in for the full 20 weeks?
no,
No. Okay. Yep.
no.
So would you stop this after week 10?
Well, I would stop this probably week 12 to
12.
14, just
Yep.
because, like, the 19 Norse are a little bit more neurotoxic.
Yep. 100%.
And, they're the ones that are really going to give you like the Guido and stuff.
Yep.
So, and I've ran 600 mgs of NPP. I've ran 150 mgs of NPP. It gave me Dino both times. So, that's why I'm not like I tend to be careful with the Gyno, but I don't see a problem with pushing this higher than 200. Like I think 3 is a perfect number for NPP.
Yep.
You're gonna get a lot of benefit out of it.
Yep.
Definitely would be adding in Decatur at this point for sure.
Yep. I would do
Uh,
0.25
twice a week,
milligrams
yeah,
of this. Yeah, twice a week.
yeah, 100%. Then AIs would come into play at this point as
Yeah,
well.
I would probably
So
do 12.5 aromacin, depending how this person aromatizes. It'd be like a twice a week or an every other day.
yeah, exactly. It all depends on is the guy getting acne? Is he starting to get like,
Right.
if he
So
nipples, is he being a little
this would
bitch?
be 12.5 milligrams aromacin.
2 to 3 times a week, I guess, call it,
Yeah, we'll call it 2 to 3 times a week. All right.
depending on the side effects.
Now growth hormone.
Um, Growth hormone. I mean, I'd probably keep it to 5.
Five.
The
Yeah.
only the highest I'd push it is like 6.
Yeah, 100%. All right. Now we're going week 11 to what?
I mean, at this point, I like to look at it at like 4 to 5 week blocks.
Yep.
So it could be to week 15, 16 or whatever.
All right. So let's go to 16 here. So what do what are
So
we what are we doing here?
this is where it really gets person independent, right?
Yep.
So the test, like if this is somebody that doesn't aromatize much and just does really well with test, like bump them to a gram, right? Myself, I mean, I can't even remember the last time I did a gram of test, but I don't remember getting much more out of it than I did the 750. And I feel great on 750 tests. Like I feel healthy. I feel like,
I can concur. I can
you
concur.
know, like I don't feel like my blood pressure is through the roof or anything. So yeah, I would say depending on the person, 750, 2,000 tests. I don't see the point in going over 1,000 tests. Like the point is like such a subjective thing. I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze. I'd rather be increasing different. I'd be looking at adding different drugs rather than going beyond that.
I'm putting a note here too. Obviously, we're not going to post this up, but for anybody that's
Yeah.
watching it, I'm putting a little asterisk next to things that are fully person dependent.
Yeah, this will be on the YouTube for those on the Instagram live. That's the
Yep.
point.
Okay, so we got 750 to 1,000 milligrams of tests per week.
All right. Then we go
And
into the primo. So this is the question like we have to think about cost because we're already at 600 megs of primo.
I was going to
Do
say
we
that.
do we add in another DHC derivative with Masteron? I think that's the play.
Yep. Yeah.
So how
I
much Masteron would you add in with this?
so for this is when I would probably. So we already had them on 600 primo. We have, the MPP at this point is probably going to come out, right? Just for the sake of this cycle here. If we're going to run that for that 12-week mark, I'd put just at this 10-week spot, I'd put an asterisk and be like cut at 12 weeks, right? Just
Mhm.
so we don't have to retype this to retype. And I'd put it between weeks 11 and 16, actually, so they know it's in between that time frame. I would cut Primo out, and I'd honestly probably start the Master on around 800.
Or you're gonna cut the primo entirely.
No, no, I'm sorry, the MPP. So I would
Oh,
when I cut the MPP out, I'm sorry, I'd probably start the Master on anywhere between that 600 of Primo and 800, anywhere between that.
yeah, I agree.
Yep. All right. So we'll go 600 to 800 milligrams mass D per week. Now, we're gonna the MPP at this point, just for the sake of this, is going to be out by this at this point after the 10th week,
Mhm.
right? So with Primo, are you going to keep it in for 600? Because you brought up a great point. Primo, when you get your hands on real Primo, for those listening, it's not fucking cheap.
Like
It's
$90 a bottle,
Yeah,
usually
around
for
that,
10
right?
milliliters.
Yeah, and
10
a
mil
lot.
for those who don't know, it's 10 milliliters, 10 milliliters per vial, 100 milligrams per milliliter. So if you're
Yep.
doing six, you're going through a $90 bottle every 10 days,
Yeah.
basically,
So for that first
almost
10
give or
weeks,
take.
we'd have you doing this. You're probably spending a good $600.
Yeah. So yeah, I think given the fact that you have the Masti, I mean, you can lower the Primo a little bit. They're both UHT derivatives.
Yep.
So I mean, there's no reason why you can't.
We're talking 400. That's probably what I would bump it down
That's
to.
fair. Yeah, that's fair.
All right. All
And the
right. So
only
now,
other thing I would say at this point is, I mean, I'm not a big oral guy.
no, me
I
neither.
don't really ever program them, but uh something I've been doing a little bit more research on is T-ball. And I think I'm gonna start playing around with that. It just seems like a pretty like take the good of Anadrol and D-ball and take out the bad, and it's not as much as the good. So I might fuck around and throw a little bit of T-ball in there for like 6 weeks left in the cycle.
Okay.
Again, just for shits and giggles, like why not? If we want to.
Right.
And it would be nothing. It would be like 25, maybe 50 minutes.
Yep. All right. So you want to do that from 16 weeks to 20 then to cap the cycle off?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So at this point now with the MPP out, are you keeping Caberin? No. Okay. And then Aromacin, I'd probably still keep in here twice a week at this point, just in case. Right.
Yeah.
Two to
The
three times.
Masteron will help for sure, but if you're especially if you're bumping your chest up to a gram, like
100%. Yeah. All right. So now we got week 16 to 20. So I'm just going to copy and paste pretty much here. Now, at this point, we're going to keep the test where it's at, obviously. Masteron, I'd probably, for the last 4 weeks, definitively make sure we're at 800 at that point. And then Primo, I'm going to keep where we have it. So, at this point right now, say we're at 750 tests, the 800 mask, we're right under 2 grams of PEDs per week, which I think is in our opinions a push, right?
yeah, definitely.
100%. And then we're going to keep the aromacin in and the growth hormone. Now, you brought up T-ball. You said 25 milligrams T-ball.
Mhm.
per day, and that would be it.
Yeah, I think so.
Now, some people too, they might ask insulin, right? It's like the taboo, like the magical thing nowadays. Any thoughts on that with the cycle here? So your thoughts on that, and then I'll get mine.
Yeah, I would definitely be using it. I don't know. I don't even think of it in terms of like a performance enhancing drug. I think of it as like it is, but I'm just when I'm doing somebody's program, I'm not looking at the PED section and adding in Humalog. I'm looking at
No,
their diet and
food.
adding Humalog, you know, and
Yep.
like their pictures. So that's why I don't think in terms of a cycle. But yeah, 100%. I mean, I haven't really used insulin in a while, like a year or so, but it is a very useful tool that I do program.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna. You took the words right out of my mouth. I was gonna say a lot of people will see like PEDs. I think like insulin goes in the cycle, whereas we're looking at like, okay, I'm pushing this dude's food because now we're pushing the cycle. Okay, their glucose is going to start to creep into where we, don't want to keep it for long. It might naturally get there. We're going to do what we can to mitigate, but now, we know the pancreas is under more load and more stress and working harder because the food's so high because we're pushing this individual to grow. Now we're going to use some insulin to kind of give that pancreas a little bit of a break.
Hmm.
And it goes based off food, like Matt said, not performance enhancing drugs. So
Yeah,
awesome. That was a good one.
it's fun. Yeah,
Fucking
talk
right.
about drugs all day. And it didn't even have to be steroids. We'll just talk about fucking recreational drugs.
Yeah. Fuck. All right. So next thing we got here: females and PEDs. Just what women use, right? What not to use. You paused on the computer, by the way. You're just frozen. I don't know why.
Actually, uh, it might be on your end because I'm good.
Oh, there you go. You unfroze. you unfroze.
I think your screen share froze. Actually, I think
Okay.
that's what
Okay.
broke it. Because I exited out of your screen share and like reset. But
Okay.
anyway, yeah, I mean it's gonna really depend which division a
Division.
woman
Yep.
is competing in.
Yep.
For women, it really all comes to like how much are you willing to risk in terms of virilization, so masculine side effects.
Yep.
Now, like if you're looking at the divisions that are more feminine, right? Like your wellness, your bikini, now your fit model. I can't say whether or not fit model athletes are going to be taking drugs or not. Like I think if I were to have a fit model client, I would be putting them into shows without taking anything, given the look that they're trying to get. I think you can achieve
Absolutely.
that pretty
Absolutely.
easily, naturally.
Yep.
But anyway, speaking to the other classes, generally speaking, the drugs that are going to be taken are going to be very low androgenic drugs. So like your anabars, right?
Yep.
Your primos, and the only time, I mean, from my perspective, you should really be looking at tests in a bikini competitor. Wellness, that's another story. Um, is just like HRT, you know. I think I would rather be pushing, not even pushing, but I would rather rely on non-androgenic or lesser androgenic compounds to facilitate growth over time than be pushing into beyond HRT levels of tests. I think you're just asking for virilization.
Yep.
Granted, you can have a woman like in a free test range above the normal range in a super physiological range around 80, we'll just say 80 free tests or whatever. And like
Yep.
some women may not see virilization where others might.
Yep.
So again, it's all very person dependent.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, again, those are probably the two most common drugs, the Primo and the Anavar. But you're gonna start hearing about like Proviron with I think it's more now, especially with the conditioning, like at the pro level that they're looking for. Um, but beyond that, I don't, see a big use for things like Winstrol. And again, once we're talking about like figure and women's physique, and we're talking about like serious conversations with athletes about the risk versus reward. But you're definitely going to start seeing like Winstrol and things like that in those divisions for sure because it's going to give the harder, drier look. It's just again you're playing with fire.
Absolutely. Everything you said, I completely agree with. So, like you said, okay, so we start obviously at the new fit model division. In my opinion, just like you said in yours, I don't really think there's going to be a place. There should be a place for really anything, like because I feel like that is 100% naturally achievable, right? Um, Hard training, diet in check, cardio, whatever, right? Um, Checking all your bodybuilding boxes off, right? Where drugs don't need a place in. Bikini, like you said, Anavar, Primo, right? We get into like the Clen, T3, T4. And like you said, HRT, too. Um, Now getting into the figure, right? What's the other one? Physique, right? Women's physique. You're gonna see things like Masteron coming in to play, whether it's E or Probe. You're gonna see
That,
things.
that is, sorry, I will have a caveat. I mean, like Masteron is fine,
I
like at
Yep.
a low, very low dose, even for like those other classes. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it
No,
did
you're good,
spark.
dude.
I didn't
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
correct myself there. They're
yeah.
fine, but it's just it's such a similar compound to Primo in the sense that they're both DHT derivative. They're very similar compounds, but Masteron is slightly more androgenic than
Yes.
Primo.
Yep.
So I'm picking the lesser of two evils,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
you know.
I would say for a bikini athlete, if that conversation is there, and this bikini athlete's like, Coach, I want to dabble in something. 10 times out of 10, we're going to go to Primo, you and I first, like you said, we're going to
Mhm.
choose the lesser of two between that and Masteron, right? And then a low dose of Anavar. Um, with both of them, you're really not shouldn't see much fertilization, like you said. You know what I mean? Um, so I mean, I know plenty of women that have taken or do take them both, and they're all feminine. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Right?
dude, it all comes down to the dose and how long you take it. And you just need to monitor side effects. That's all it is.
Exactly. Right.
I had a conversation with a friend of mine the other day who, she had posted something on her story. It was a Greg Doucette video, and the title was that Anavar turned her into a man. And I listened to the whole video, and I actually messaged my friend about it because it was entirely misleading. It was clickbait. The whole video, basically, Greg is saying like these are pretty decent tools, like Anavar, amongst other things, with low side effects, as long as you take it in low doses for short periods of time.
Yep.
Meaning, like 5 to 10 mgs for like 6 to 12 weeks tops, right? And that's again monitoring for side effects. If you take 10 milligrams of Anavar as a woman for a year straight,
Oh
of
yeah.
course you're gonna have fucking some serious side effects, but don't be a fucking idiot.
Yeah. Also, if if you have a coach and they're advising you to take, in my opinion, Anavar for a year straight, fucking run the other way.
Yeah, dude.
Like there's a major problem.
You'd
Uh,
be surprised. I don't know how many coaches are programming this, but I'm hearing more commonly that Anavar year round is like common in women at like 5 mg dosages, 2.5 mg dosages.
I
I just
see.
don't see the point.
Again, risk to reward, like you said, we also have a responsibility to these individuals' health, right? Because we're the ones advising. I mean, how responsible is that to put a chick on something you know after a year straight is going to have some of those effects? You
Yeah,
know,
of
like
course.
like so. Let's put it like this, right? Good scenario. If you take person A, this female, and you tell them to take 5 milligrams of Anavar for a year straight, and then you have a female B, and we have them cycling on and off that 5 milligrams and doing it properly, I bet you first off, us knowing how to feed somebody and how to write their training, the progress is probably going to be the same, but I guarantee you, person B, their blood work is going to be 10 times better.
Yeah, yeah, and they'll probably have less side effects, like
Hey, and
just in
that's what
terms
I
of
was. Yeah, I was just about to say, and they're going to
facial
have.
hair growth, all
Yeah,
that.
they're gonna fucking look and sound less like a man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And we're talking. We're being pretty transparent about dosages and stuff, and we're talking about like females dabbling in PEDs. Like we're talking about if you wanted to actually ask us for a dose, start with 40 milligrams of Primo, 30 milligrams of Primo a week, and taper up to 50. Don't go over 70. Uh, Definitely not, especially in your first cycle. and like
So
see how you do. See how you do. Do it for 6 to 12 weeks. Check
yeah,
for side effects. Like, you
yeah.
know,
I would say that
just
sweet
just
spot.
just be very be careful. It's pretty most faked often off the top of the test
Yeah,
prep.
yeah,
So be very careful who you're getting it from.
yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, that's a good. Yeah, you don't. It if you get your lab work before you started primo, and you were at like 30 to 40, 50 testosterone on your lab work, and then you got that, and you like start to notice shit within like a week or two, like go get your lab work checked again for the test. If that shit's like sky high at the point, because probe's gonna kick in like that, like it's bullshit, right? You know it's faked, right? So like you said, you got to be cautious of the primo. That's honestly a really good point you brought up because it's faked very much so, and people are just these drug dealers are just making more money on it because they can fake it. You know what I mean? More easy, and it's the most expensive thing. But like you said, right to your point on the dosages, right? I'd say anywhere between that 40-50 mark on whether it's Masteron or Primo for women is like where they should be. Right. I would say the max, like you said, 70-75 is that the absolute max. And that's like for, in my opinion, an advanced, you know what I mean?
I think again, once you get to the higher classes, I mean, you're gonna definitely go over that for
Oh,
sure.
I thought we were talking like bikini and such, like for
Oh, yeah,
pro
I'm just
that dose.
talking
Yeah.
generally.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
talking generally.
Yeah, yeah. Like
But
women's physique, figure. I mean, I've been told by very reputable coaches, right? I won't say names, but um where like women are definitely taking like 75 to 100 milligrams of mast or primo a week, and their Winstraw is like 5 to 10 milligrams
mm,
per day. You know what I mean? I think, like you said, that's for the more advanced and higher muscled classes where like you have to be fucking peeled inside out and dry as a bone. You know, like you said too, Proviron a really good one you brought up too.
yeah,
Not a lot of people think, but in those higher classes, that's very common.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's another good low side effect drug. It's not super androgenic, you know.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. 100%. All right, cool. And then the last thing we had was just pretty much running all these drugs, right? We talked about men, right? We put an advanced cycle together. We talked about women running these without proper guidance, right? Just if you're going to do these things, right, just make sure you're being guided properly, right? Somebody's checking your lab work that actually knows how to fucking read it. Um, make sure that you're, in my opinion, being guided with the dosages and the duration and the possibility of side effects and what they could do and what health subs to take and somebody, and all that if you're going to dabble in this stuff.
Yeah, like do your research too. Don't just like
That's it.
blindly
Yeah.
follow the coach. Like don't
Yep.
go asking everybody and your mother their opinions because that's when you're gonna get 100 different answers. And like
That's a good point.
if you go, if you're suspect of what me and Steve are telling you, and you go ask like that random old head at the gym who you know has been running gear forever, just know for a fucking fact that Steve and I are gonna have better knowledge than that fucking guy at the gym. But yeah, like do your research. There's unlimited resources online where you can look up like at least you gotta get a general sense of what people are taking on the internet, right? So
Yep.
if your coach tells you out the gate to take a gram of primo, you're not just like, all right, sounds good. You go and research that that's a significant amount
Yeah.
of primo.
I can also very confidently say that you and I have never had any health issues with taking the PEDs, and we have a ton of experience under both of our belts personally with like what we've done. Right, we've also been in fucking shape, like true shape, multiple times. Um, and we also have seen a lot of lab work on clients at this point to know what you should and shouldn't be doing and kind of what works and doesn't. I would, so the experience on what we personally have done, the lab work we've seen, and our own health, I think, you know what I mean, says enough.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
so, but yeah, just like you said, do your research and don't be dumb with this shit because sadly, I've seen teenagers get into handfuls of mess watching TikTok, thinking they're going to be Chris Bumstead, and literally taking 2 to 3 grams of shit per week, and they're needing HRT at the age of like 20. I've seen it, right? So just don't be dumb. Do
Yeah,
your
yeah.
research and be guided properly. So cool. Anything
Don't
else?
don't take an Anavar only cycle if you're a guy.
And also 12 and a half aromasin twice a week is way too much.
Yeah, yeah, the
Yeah,
same.
You're gonna
Take your
tank your
estrogen for
estrogen.
good.
Jesus.
The kid was the worst. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
so glad. I'm so glad I don't work with him anymore. Um.
on
Anyway,
that note, on that,
last
uh,
question actually. Do you ever and the reason I'm asking is like I know about it. It just seems to be coming. It seems that a lot of first time PED user females are going to this as ostarine. Do you ever program it and play with it at all?
um, so I actually had one female take it, figure girl. Um, the only so she was also on HRT. Let me preface this. She was on HRT. She was on 5 milligrams of Anavar. Um, and she took Ostarine. We had her take it, I think, for 8 weeks. It was an 8 week cycle. She said that all she really felt was she was like super lethargic. The second time she ran it, it was just with her HRT. I saw a good difference in body comp, but I don't know that it was any different or more significant than when she was just on her HRT and her Anavar, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the way I mean, I've never dabbled in any of them. I know like about some of the SARMs that are more common, like that Red 140, MK677.
Yep.
Just because like people come to you on them and ask you about taking them, but
Yep.
all I can say is like nobody at like my level is taking fucking SARMs, bro. Like,
I was literally just about to say if you're at like a national level physique like me or a pro like Matt, nobody in their fucking right mind has a fucking national level or a pro level cycle that has fucking SARMs in it. Like, am I wrong? You know what I mean? I'm glad you honestly brought that up because the amount of fucking questions I'm sure you get and I get about SARMs, it's like, can they have a tiny place in things? Sure, but like, I also just see people like taking them because they think they're fucking steroids and like thinking they're replacing them and they're just trashing their liver. Like, you're taking an oral that's still having some type of effect on your hormones. You know what I mean? And your organs, right? And like, treat it almost the same, but like nobody's like if you're running full cycles, in my opinion, I just don't see the point.
yeah, I mean, if I have somebody who's like gotten good results with them in the past, like I'll give it a go. Fuck it,
Yeah,
I'll
right.
try
Yeah,
it.
yeah. And that's an important thing too. We're not ignorant to the fact, like you said, if somebody comes to you and wants, we want to try EQ, we don't usually program it for people. We don't personally use it, but like, sure, we'll try it. And like, if somebody's had good results, we'll see. But I just remember seeing like I didn't see much significance when comparing photos from 8 weeks of Anavar at 5 milligrams to 8 weeks of the Ostarine. I don't just I remember vividly not seeing much of a compositional difference. You know what I
Makes
mean?
sense. Well, when you have anabolic androgenic steroids, might as well just take the good
Uh,
shit.
yeah, that's it exactly right. Like I don't think if somebody's willing to take that and they're willing to take the Anavar, I'm going to take the Anavar because one, there's more anecdotal evidence. We know more people that have taken Anavar. You know what I mean? We know what Anavar. We know what we're getting. You know what I mean? The
I mean,
Austrian,
it
I feel
was
like these
designed for a purpose, like to protect
exactly.
from most muscle wasting in HIV and AIDS patients. Like it is,
Exactly.
it works for fucking sure.
It
I
does,
don't
yeah.
know. I don't know what Osterine was made for.
Right, right.
It's just
So
like
I
to sell to
I
teenagers.
yeah, I don't. Yeah, they sell it in the fucking local shop, dude. And I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. So I don't want to misspeak, but we know what Anavar is for. That's what I mean. It's been around for all this time. We know. Me and you probably know at least 25 people that you and I can both go to that have taken Anavar. I can't go to 25 people to ask them how they felt on Ostarine.
I know like probably 5 people.
You know what I mean? If that.
And I know like hundreds of people have taken it. Anybody,
Anavar.
just ask most people at the gym. You ever taken Anavar?
Yeah.
You're probably gonna
So
get a lot of people who said yes.
it's true. So cool. Um, anything else?
I think we talked about all the drugs.
That was a good one. But everybody on Instagram listening, it'll